guilty. I get a lot of emails, and sometimes I read the first sentence or the first two sentences, and then I assume I know what the rest of the email says, and I just jump to the next one in queue. I hope I'm not the only one who does that, because sometimes we misunderstand what's being said in an email if we don't take our time with it. And I tend to see us as a world as very busy. We have drive-through restaurants, we have home delivery for stuff because all we do is go, go, go. Sometimes we don't sit back and just relish the things that are happening with us, being in the present moment. I think that can happen with Scripture as well, where we kind of rush through it. We've heard the stories before, and so we think we know the ending, and we kind of zone out or don't pay attention. Or sometimes we hear the beginning of the words and we don't like them, so we definitely don't listen. I know that is a case for a friend of mine. She was away from the church a long time, and we came back about the same time. When she came back, she said, I'm going to be diligent in reading the Bible. I just want to understand who Jesus is and who God is and what's expected of me. And so she did what a lot of people will do. She started in the book of Genesis, and then she started reading through. That is the wrong way to read the Bible, because the Bible isn't one book. It's a number of books. There's different beginnings and different endings. Well, she got through most of it, and then she got to Paul's letter to the Ephesians, where Paul says, wives, be subordinate to your husband. She did not like that. She put the Bible down. She actually told me she slammed the Bible down. She didn't want to hear that because it doesn't make sense to her. She eventually picked it up again, and she's a religious sister now. So you see how God works through these things. I think today's beginning of the gospel is the same way for some of us when we hear those words, because they're difficult words to hear. Whoever loves mother and father more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever loves their children more than me is not worthy of me. Is God telling us not to love one another? I mean, we're taking this out of context, out of the context that was written. And I know that some people have done that. I'm going to tell a story about my sister, but first I need to say, somebody here asked me if I don't like my sister because I tell a lot of stories about her. No, I love my sister. She just gives me a lot of stories. My sister entered religious life right out of high school. She entered the Felician Sisters, Livonia, Michigan. I was just up there a few days ago to see my goddaughter, but it was a very strict Polish community. She stayed 5 years, and she realized that wasn't the calling for her, and so she left. But in those 5 years, this is in the early 60s, the world was going through so much turmoil and change, and the church was doing the same thing, trying to keep up the world, trying to keep us on track. So she entered religious life, and I don't know how long it was that she was in there, but one of the nuns came up to her and said, so, which funeral do you want to go home for, your mom's or your dad's? Because you can only go home to one. And she used that passage about loving parents more than God as the reason for that statement. Again, she misinterpreted what Jesus was saying. And that's not a lone situation. I have a cousin who's fundamentalist who would go through this the same way. If her children need to go to the doctor and it's a Sunday, she's not taking the children to the emergency room. She's going to go to church first because she needs to love God first, because that's what the scripture says. They're missing the rhetoric of this time. Jesus isn't saying don't love others, but he's asking us, when you take the whole passage into consideration, are you loving people like I love them? Are you in this for the long haul? Or do you just come to me when you want something? Because following me is hard. It means that we're going to put other people first. It means that you're going to suffer and sacrifice because of your love for other people. You need to be careful with Scripture and not proof texting, just taking a phrase or two out, but looking at the whole idea where it's written. Jesus is speaking about the loyalty that he's expecting from us for him. And that loyalty means loving God and loving others. He's not saying be emotionally distant to others. He's not saying stop loving them. But he's saying love them for the right reason. That they're my creation and I gave them in this world, and you need to love and let go of your prejudice and selfishness and just love the people for who they are. I guess that's what I kind of want to just, as I took my takeaway from this gospel is, are we doing that? Or do we just love people who love us? Are we willing to set aside those differences and see people as God's creation? Are we in it for the long haul? Or do we just look for God when we need him? Because he expects us to live a certain way. And if we live that certain way, as he tells us in both that gospel reading and the first reading, he's going to make a home for us in heaven and have the promises that he promised come alive. But it's only if we live as he asks us to. So just think maybe about the past week. Have you given up selfishness to help serve other people? Have you given up your time to somebody who needed your attention? Are you willing to suffer that cross of bearing others' burdens? Or do you just want to be selfish and do things your own way?